All right. Well, welcome to our Business Spotlight podcast. My name is Ryan Welch. I'm the managing partner of Tax Break, and with me today is the operations manager of Insurance Group of the Ozarks, Jason Deal.
Hi, everyone.
And also, our spotlight today is Taylor, the owner of Tailored Massages in Rogersville. Excuse me.
Howdy, everyone.
And we don't know what we're doing yet. We're just going to have a conversation today, kind of spotlight who we are, maybe where we've come from, why we do what we do. And Jason, I think being that you're the technical guru of the group, I think maybe starting with you and finding out a little bit about you and letting the group or letting the people that are listening know who you are would be a good idea.
Sure. Thanks, Ryan. My name is Jason Deal. As formerly mentioned, I'm the operations manager at Insurance Group of the Ozarks, which is an insurance brokerage firm in Nixa, Missouri that specializes in health, Medicare, and life insurance options. A little bit about myself. I am kind of a musician by trade. I love doing anything with audio cables and twisting EQ knobs. In my spare time, you'll find me reading a lot. I enjoy reading about philosophy and science and pretty much all nonfiction. I'm not really a fiction guy. I like to feel like I've learned something coming out of a book. And yeah, I enjoy what I do because I work with a really great group of people, and it sounds pretty cliche, but I get to roll out of bed every morning feeling like I made a difference, like I helped people, and that keeps me smiling. So that's why I do what I do, and I really enjoy it.
Yeah. Thanks, Jason. You and I haven't known each other for a whole long time, so I actually look forward to getting to know you a little bit deeper than what we hear about in our marketing group and networking group that we all go to. That we're all involved in. That's how we met, and that's where this kind of started, and hopefully we can branch off from there. As I said, I'm the managing partner of Tax Break. It's a new tax preparation and bookkeeping firm in Ozarks, Missouri. And in my spare time, I have 3 kids and a wife that take up an awful lot of time. I do spend time reading. It's funny you say philosophy and things. I tend to towards that sort of thing as well. My favorite authors actually do tend to be fiction authors, but more about allegory, I think is the way to say it. Using Douglas Adams or Ayn Rand as examples, they are both they have personal philosophies that they espouse through a lot of fictional stories and things like that. So I think I'm look forward to seeing more things about that.
Both great authors. I love Douglas Adams, and Hitchhiker's Guide is one of my favorite books. Even though it is fiction, it is just a great read. I picked that up to reread it maybe a month ago. It's sitting in my living room as we speak. It
is one of the only books that I have in my house. I have highlighted actually passages in it. I have a big leather-bound volume of the Trilogy of 5, as he called it, which was
there you go,
hilarious. Taylor, thanks for coming and talking to us today, and hopefully, you're welcome back any other time. So we don't want to make this just a one-time shot, but maybe you tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I started up shop back in February, and pretty much like to spend time with my family. And as far as work goes, I don't want it to feel like a job, if that makes sense to you. I got into massage therapy to help people, and I just feel like that if I'm doing it every single day, all day long, it's going to feel like a job. So I like to be out and about and get different experiences, and I don't know, just I like to sit in the quiet room, actually. I would love to just sit in a hammock or lay in the bed. I don't care if it's dark outside. I don't care if it's I don't know. I could lock myself in a quiet room for about 5 hours straight and love every minute of it.
What brought you into your line of work? What drew you to massage therapy?
Well, my wife, she's a physical therapy assistant, and I'd managed to hurt myself at work. She did a few techniques on my shoulder and my neck, and it kind of got me back on my feet. And my brother had the same issue. I was able to use those techniques on him. And he said, you need to become a masseuse, which masseuse is actually female massage therapists, and I don't think I want to be a masseuse. So the technical word that I would always use is a massage therapist. I went back to work for about 6 more months, signed up for massage therapy school, and graduated last year. So I've been able to, put my skills to use for the last year. Loved every minute of it.
One of my favorite things, and one of the reasons why I love what I do as a tax break, bookkeeping, and the business side of that. We do individuals tax preparation, during tax season. but I like getting involved in businesses and finding out what makes a business owner want to do what they do. And you and I have had, I know you a little bit better than I do Jason, so I'm going to ask a little bit I'm leading you here, so be ready. But you and I have had some conversations about why you got into massage outside of the reasons of your wife being a physical therapist and things like that. I knew that too. But you had an interesting story that I think would make for a good story here about, where you came from that. And specifically the day you realized that you wanted to do that. I don't know if you feel comfortable telling that story in this setting, but I thought it's a cool story and I think it's interesting to hear it.
Well, the story actually started, I was at work one day, and I've always been offline, always in a higher position and never just on the line working every single day.
Where did you work at prior?
Emerson Climate Technologies in Lebanon, Missouri. I've been a floor support technician, a manufacturing specialist, and an operations specialist. And, top of the ladder, at the bottom of the ladder, work night shift, day shift, weekend shift. But this particular day, I took somebody's spot so that they can go to the restroom, and I heard a voice, and it said, "I've got something better for you." Well, I turned around, and nobody was there.
Whoa.
So I thought I was hearing stuff, and I heard the voice again, "I've got something better for you." Turned around, and nobody was there. And once again, I'm thinking, okay, I've got you. It was God speaking to me, and he said he had something better for me. 11 years in a factory, that's, I felt like my life was going nowhere. 40-plus hours a week, wake up when it's dark, go home when it's dark, especially in the wintertime. And I decided I would take a voluntary layoff, which, used to happen every year, but I think they finally decided to not cut so many people out, not work as many hours during the summer. I'm not sure what they do with that, but I took a voluntary layoff, and around Christmas time, my brother was saying that his neck hurt and his shoulder hurt, and was able to put those, use those techniques on him, and I heard that same voice that said, "This is your new profession. This is what you will do. You will go out, you will lay hands on the sick, and they will recover."
So it's kind of like your calling almost.
I was called to do this.
That's amazing.
I've had several dreams of people walking into my office and me working on them. I have no clue who these people were. I've never seen them before in my life. And I've actually had 4 people walk through my door that I know I've seen before in my dream.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
So it is very, very interesting that I've got to see these people that I've actually seen before. People come in, they're in pain. I'm able to work on them. To me, it feels like I can give them the worst massage ever, but they will still walk out with a smile on their face.
Now, I tend to be a bit of a skeptical person a lot, and but I also, whenever you told me that story the first time, the words that I was hearing and what I was seeing almost seemed like 2 different things to me, meaning that. Again, in a lot of settings, if I was listening to a podcast and I heard someone tell that story, maybe I would be like, come on, I don't know. But watching you tell that story here, and also the first time you told me that, there is a sincerity to it that I think that it rings true, and I hope it rings true on a recording. And I don't know how you feel about that, Jason. I think that's the first time you'd heard that. And I think that was it really does seem sincere, and that's why I got into helping businesses do the things that they do, because I think it's very interesting why people do what they do and where they've come from and their personal stories that make business not just cold numbers. Like a lot of accountants believe in businesses are just numbers on a page, and I just think it's so much more than that. Numbers on a page really just tell a story of real life, and I think it's very interesting, and I hope hopefully this will get you some recognition and a lot of the other networking stuff that we do, because I think you'd be great.
Yeah, and well, that door swings both ways. I mean, I think we've all had this experience where we realized we were someplace we shouldn't be, as opposed to having that insight that you did where you realized this is where I should be. And that's interesting. I've had those moments too. I'm not sure if it's anything as definitive as hearing a voice per se, but I've definitely had, if I were to put that in my labeling, it seems like there's synchronicities, and all of a sudden you look around and you're like, okay, this is what everything was building to, and I realized there is, a plan, and I'm on the path, or however you want to describe it. it's really nice to see those things blend back into business, because when you think about kind of the standard American that's just punching a card 9 to 5, 40 hours a week, and like you mentioned, going to work and it's dark and coming home and it's dark, and just how many of people that they'll blink and they've just had 20 years of that and they didn't even think about it. So yeah, it's really cool that A, that happened to you, and then B, you paid attention to that, and now you're in a position where you're doing something you're passionate about.
I thought that was really cool too, because I've found myself many times in my life after the fact looking back and saying, I knew that was coming to an end before I was willing to admit it. Sometimes there's a real victory in saying, you know what, I've done this for long enough. I've gone far enough with this, and I can't. It's honest with yourself to change your life, and I'm sure it probably scared your wife to death.
Well, the funny thing is it didn't take very much for me to influence her, for me to actually quit my job and go do massage therapy. I've only had one massage before in my life before I ever even thought about going to massage therapy.
Really?
Maybe she hadn't had very many either, and she just wanted some as well.
She's only had one, I would say two, before I've ever actually went.
Yeah.
So it is pretty interesting. I started school, and we had 4 guys in our class, 2 women, 4 guys. And so when we started practicing, I had a male partner, and being a male myself and only had one massage before, I didn't know what to think. So you can imagine exactly what everybody was thinking in that room. I mean, it was definitely scary, because if you have no idea what to expect and you're laying on that table and you've got a 6'1", 6'2" guy standing over you, it kind of ruins the mood. So it was definitely scary for me. Probably not as scary for her, but
sure.
It's definitely scary for me.
I also, again, having done a little bit of research or just knowing you for a little bit, I know that you've changed your approach to your massage business. If you could go into that a little bit.
Well, changing my approach, can you expand or elaborate on that? Because I can go 3 different directions with this. I want to make sure.
Well, what I meant, and actually, go whichever way you want. What I had noticed whenever I first met you, you had talked about your style and image that was a certain direction, and you felt like you were running into a wall with that, and then you kind of maybe became more yourself or whatever, and that you found more success doing that. But that's what I meant. But yeah, I mean, if there's more to it.
Well, talking about technique, we did learn a few things in school, like a neuromuscular technique, and it is for people that's actually, they have pain, or people that want a little extra range of motion on their golf swing, per se. And the neuromuscular is not just giving everybody a full body rub down. It's actually, a puzzle that you put together in your head, and you're able to work 1 to 2 or just a group of muscles that actually give your body what it needs in order to either heal itself or just get that extra swing, the extra range of motion on the swing. The other part of changing my approach would be my beard. Believe it or not, it was just the beard. And
how so?
Well, what I started putting on slacks. I put on a polo. I tucked my shirt in. I was trying to look very professional, keep my beard trimmed, and barely even on my face.
And your Arkansas friends probably wouldn't have recognized.
Probably not. But people wouldn't talk to me, and it just seemed as if the more I tried to look professional, the less people talked to me. So one day I actually just put on blue jeans and a t-shirt, didn't care, went to my meeting that morning, and all of a sudden people started talking to me. And I thought, well, maybe I've got something here. So I just kept wearing blue jeans and let my beard grow out, because I figured the scraggly I looked, the more people would talk to me, because I look more as, just a person and not just a business person.
Well, and that kind of makes sense to me. I think all 3 of us are in businesses where we deal with people in a personal setting, or at least relating to personal topics. I mean, obviously, for tax break and taxes, that's something that's very personal to people. It's about their income, their wealth, their assets, etc. Of course, for massage therapy, you're actually physically touching somebody. In my line of work, we deal with health issues and prescription lists and doctors and those things. It's, very personal to people, obviously. So I could imagine that you probably weren't comfortable putting on slacks and trying to be this professional role. And so therefore, just by being yourself, that probably resonated with your clientele a little bit, I would guess.
I would say that probably had a lot to do with it. Never looked at it that way. I just know that I could walk through the mall. I would walk into a gas station. Didn't matter. And people would just start randomly talking to me, and the first thing out of their mouth would be, "Wow, I like your beard."
It is a nice beard, Taylor.
But eventually, it's a little too thin, so
Oh, okay.
yeah, my barber told me I needed to kind of just keep it trimmed. I looked better that way. And of course, my wife, she thought it looked a lot better too. She didn't like my beard.
She prefers you without a beard?
She prefers me with a shorter, trimmed beard.
I got it.
Not, Grizzly Adams or anything
I hadn't
like
seen
that.
you earlier today. It'd been a week or so, and it seemed like your beard had gotten a little bit out of control. But now it seems nice and kempt, as it were. So.
Yeah.
I'm kind of jealous of your beard. Mine grows out and I look like a homeless man. So,
Well, I was getting there.
Yeah.
I was getting there. See, the more I grow my beard out, the thinner that my hair gets on top. Or at least looks that way.
compensation.
Yeah. Another question I had, when it comes to a male masseuse or a male massage therapist, excuse me, you're not a masseuse because you are a man. We're not going to call you Caitlyn Jenner today. One of the things that I find interesting that you've talked about before too is I think as a male going to a massage therapist, do I really want a guy touching me? But then I got to thinking about it a little bit further because I've had one massage in my life too, and it was with a woman. It was a couples massage, and I didn't really feel comfortable with that. If I'd have been by myself, I would have been very nervous, so.
Well, when you get older, you go get colonoscopies, correct?
If you have to, I guess I guess that's a necessity.
More than likely, the doctor's going to be a male.
Well, that's
true.
a good point.
So, would you rather go get a colonoscopy or go to a massage therapist and keep your clothes on?
That's the question I was going to ask you. How naked do I have to get if I'm going to get a massage from you, Taylor?
You don't have to take off an ounce of clothing.
Oh, wow.
Huh. Well, and I guess, I've had one professional massage also, and it was from a lady, and I enjoyed it to the point that it was relaxing enough that I fell asleep. But it also made me think about, in the past, I had dated somebody that was just very skilled at giving massages, and she could have walked on my back with all of her weight, and I would feel more relaxed after that than I did with this professional person that actually gave me a very relaxing massage, but it wasn't like something deep tissue that I walked out feeling bruised, but then the next day felt great. It would make sense to me if I were to make that choice now. I guess I would probably want to go with a guy for the sense of the muscle or the strength that would come with it. I guess I'm not really versed in how. I don't have a lot of experience in massage therapy, so I don't know if just the training comes into play, and if you know what you're doing a good job, versus just somebody that's maybe a little bit stronger can push harder, and so therefore for me that would feel better. I don't know.
Well, it all comes down to your stance. The girls at school managed to push out more pressure than I could.
Really?
Only because of their stance. They had a better stance, so they're able to get their body behind it.
Oh,
Instead of them straining their arms to get the pressure they need, they're able to just lean in with their body. It took me a while to even get my stance correct in order for me to even do a deep tissue. But it is important to say that the stuff that I do is not a relaxing massage. I can do the Swedish basic, relaxing massage, but I do need to add in there that I'm more of a clinical type massage. So
you have a job a couple of days a week that you have an office in Rogersville.
I own my own business and an office in Rogersville.
And then a couple of days a week you also work someplace else if you want.
I work at Active Life Chiropractic.
Yeah.
Where is that located?
That is on the corner of Battlefield and Ingram Hill Road in the Fox Grape Shopping Center. Yeah. It's right next to the IMAX.
So a lot of that focus is more. It's not. You wouldn't want to call it medical because again, you're not a doctor.
Medical massage,
but
clinical
it's to
massage.
That focus, right?
Right. That is correct.
Yeah, one of the things, my dad is having has back problems, and he's very concerned about going to. He doesn't like going to chiropractors and things like that. He's never been, but the stigma a lot of times with those types of businesses is that they really focus on bringing you back, having you come back over and over and over again.
My brother's the same way. He has a stigma. You and I have talked about that before, Taylor, where I feel like he would benefit from chiropractic care and massage therapy, and he's just like, I don't want anybody touching me.
Well, people are looking at doctors these days, the ones that give you the medicine for the pain. You got to realize when you're taking pain medication, it's not only messing with your pain receptors, it's messing with all of your receptors. So you're getting rid of the pain, but you're also getting rid of some of your other sensations as well.
Well, and you're only focusing on the symptom as opposed to the problem.
Exactly. It's a symptom-based and not a problem-based. Chiropractors and massage therapists, we don't use anything for pain. I mean, we may give you some biofreeze or something to help your muscles later, but people do that when they're in physical therapy. People do that after they work out anyways. We don't prescribe anything.
What about the stigma of they're not fixing the problem so much as they've got to go back every week to get readjusted, things like that.
Okay, just because you hurt yourself in 30 seconds doesn't mean we can fix you in 30 seconds.
Interesting.
Say you go 20 years doing the same job over and over and you got a hunchback. We're not going to be able to fix you in one session. You've got 20 years of damage, and your brain says that hunchback is normal. So you can come in and get a chiropractic adjustment from at Active Life, or come in and get a massage and a medical massage. We can try to stand you upright, but your brain says that hunchback is normal. So within a couple days, it's going to try to go back. You have to go back so that it resets the muscle and brain connection there.
So part of the healing is actually retraining the brain to what is the proper healthy way to exist, because what you're saying is that it's been trained the wrong way, and you're trying to undo that wiring per se.
Absolutely. Let's take people that sit at a desk. If you look at people that sit at a desk all day, 9 times out of 10, their shoulders are rolled in, their neck is forward. Yep, and I see you pointing at yourselves. So,
guilty as charged.
I'm sitting here right now that same way.
Well, the complaint is their low back and their upper back usually hurt. Well, the upper back and the low back are only symptoms. If it's your upper back, more than likely your pecs are pulling you forward and putting strain on your back. So we can rub your back all day long, but at the end of the day, it's just going to go back. You're going to feel the pain.
Yeah, I've heard you say that before, and you said that in that sense you start working out the person's chest. Maybe that's what you did with my sister-in-law that day. But you start working out the person's chest and really start stretching and releasing some of the muscles in the front, which allow the back to kind of go back into its natural position.
That is correct. It actually goes into more of a relaxed state, and it's not angry from trying to, trying to pull your shoulders back.
Yeah.
Well, and something that I thought was interesting is, as mentioned earlier, we're all in the same business networking group, and that is called 38 Special. And I've seen you give a small presentation on your business before, and one of the things that you were mentioning, we had a guest that day, and the gentleman was having trouble with his finger. He had a trigger finger is what he called it, where he works outside all the time, or with a nail gun, I can't remember. And you walked over to him, and you were showing him that, yes, his finger is locked up. However, if you work down the arm, and then you went almost down to the elbow and start pushing muscles and tendons there, that all is connected. And of course, when I'm thinking back to high school anatomy, that makes sense to me. But on my day-to-day, I don't think about that. If my back hurts, it hurts right here. I'm going to push it, and that's where it's hurting. But it actually could be another part of the body.
That is correct. Trigger finger, it takes your flexors and your extensors in your arm to actually ball up and make a fist. So when your finger gets stuck in the trigger position, you have 2 sets of muscles that are actually keeping your finger in that position. So if you work the extensors and the flexors on the arm, it will relax that muscle and will eventually take your finger back to where it's supposed to be.
Okay.
I mean, I know that didn't make too much of sense the way I said it, but
no, you were. I mean, it did. You were pointing at probably just maybe a couple inches above your elbow as you were pointing to that.
or yeah, below.
Below your elbow, yeah. So
I would go through and start naming off muscles, but
Well, yeah, it's over our heads at least, or at least mine.
yeah, I'm not that technical.
so
Huh.
I've heard you talking a little bit about some self-help that you can help people with too. So if they come to you once and they say, I'm having this particular issue, maybe you can help work them out. And maybe part of that retraining is not just you working on them in a finite period of time, but maybe them doing certain things either to themselves or changing some of their movements in order to fix them.
Oh, absolutely. We'll go back to upper back issues for people that sit at a desk. It's either their neck or their upper back. I mean, it all ties into the same thing. I will actually treat pecs and other muscles and deltoids that pull you forward, but I will have you come in probably within about 3 to 4 days, probably no longer than 5, because at that point your brain's trying to push everything back to the way it was. But anything that you can do in between the times will definitely help the next session. So stretching, exercises, just self-massage.
I've self-massage, and what is your feelings on yoga and things of that nature and that type of stretching?
Yoga is very good for you. I mean, I mean, it is very good for you. But a lot of people hurt themselves because they try to push themselves too far in yoga.
Oh, yeah.
You have to start out with a beginning yoga. You can't just go straight out and do these exquisite, cool sculpture type poses. It doesn't work.
What an American thing to change, to turn yoga, this peaceful Eastern philosophy, into how far can I push myself into doing it?
Sure.
We all are raised to, if you can run a mile in 6 minutes, then why can't you run it in 5 minutes and 55 seconds? And I think people treat yoga an athletic event, but it's not a competition in the same way that some of those other things are.
No, you have to do baby steps in everything you decide to do, whether it's just lifting weights, doing cross training, doing yoga, starting in a sport. Like you said, you're running a mile in 6 minutes. You're not just going to get out there and blow through it.
I cannot run a mile in 6 minutes. I need to make sure that that's very clear. If I could run a quarter mile in 6 minutes, I think I'd be very happy.
There is audio evidence. Yeah, and I don't know if you gentlemen have ever tried yoga. I tried briefly a couple years ago, and it is a lesson in humility of how bad my balance is, and other people just make it look easy, and there are poses I couldn't even hold at all for any amount of time, and they're just sitting there enjoying the pose.
My wife and I had purchased, we had tried P90X, and that is awful. It is awful because I get sore, and I'm not training for anything. I hate it. So then we thought, maybe we should try this. There's a program that we got called the Ultimate Yogi Program, which is essentially a P90X style DVD system with 12 discs, and I felt very similar. I'm watching her, and she's a 115-pound woman who, has the reflexes and balance of a cat, and I'm, this lumbering person that's standing over her just feeling completely ridiculous. But I found that even after just a couple of weeks of doing it, and I do not have to stay with it yet to have actually gone through the whole 108-day program, much to my chagrin. But what I have found is that when I do stick with it for a couple of weeks, that is an amazing thing. And I guess what I meant was obviously it's a very anything like that's taken in moderation and used properly is a very good thing. My question to you is more or less from a massage therapist standpoint. Do you find that kind of thing maybe alleviates? Not that we want to get you out of business and but I think you've actually said that. I know I'm speaking here, but you've actually said that one of your goals is to have people not have to come back to you. So is yoga something that they could do in order to get to that goal?
Absolutely. Okay. Like you said, I don't want people in my office for the same thing over and over and over again. Now, don't get me wrong. I do believe in maintenance.
Sure.
Just because your body doesn't hurt doesn't mean that you've got problems that are about to happen. Pain is not the first thing that pops up. It's usually about third or fourth down the list. So the problem's already started before you ever feel the pain. So it's always good to at least, have some kind of a maintenance being done, either whether it's a massage or chiropractic or, whatever you can find that actually works.
Sure.
I say acupuncture, acupressure. I've never tried that, but I'm definitely willing to go check that out. And I hear there's a float spa that's here in Springfield, or there in Springfield, the Theta Float Spa. I've heard that is amazing, so that's one of the things I'm fixing to put on my list.
Whether isolation tanks is what you're talking about?
I believe that's what that is. Saltwater deprivation, sensory deprivation tanks. So anything that will get some kind of a maintenance going will, if you invest just a little bit now, you don't have to fork out a lot of money later. So,
are there any stretching exercises that you could recommend for somebody that's a construction worker that comes home every night sore? We've kind of covered like what an office worker should do: roll your shoulders back, sit up straight, that kind of thing. But just for the other side of the coin, as far as people that are in constant pain, of course, it'd be variant on the person. What their condition is, but is there any general knowledge you could share as far as how to prevent those things from happening? Or
well, when you say construction worker, are you talking about like home building? Or
yeah, let's just by example for this hypothetical, let's use like a framer, somebody that builds homes for a living.
Okay, they've always got something in their hands, so basically they got this whole fist going. Well, you do have to remember that all of your muscles in your fingers actually go down into your arm. So if you can just squeeze your forearm and then extend and flex your wrist back and forth, up and down, just in a general circle, it doesn't matter. You're actually massaging your muscles at that point.
Huh.
If somebody was to walk by right now and see us all three sitting here squeezing our arms and flexing our hands, I think they'd think we were a little bit weird. But no, I see what you mean.
Invisible stress ball.
There you go.
Well, I mean, I feel like I know your business a little better. How would somebody contact you if they wanted to, if they were inspired by something that you heard or something that you said resonated with them where they said, hey, that's me, I need to seek out treatment? How would they get a hold of you?
Well, I do have a website. It is Tailored Massages. I also have a Facebook page that you can find. It's Tailored Massages as well. Or you can just give me a call at 417-664-2424. I may not answer at that point in time because I do have a family and I do have stuff I like to do as well, but I will eventually get back with you.
So Tailored Massages, that's Taylored Massa, tailored.
Yes.
Okay.
Tailored, Tay, that is correct.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to make sure that didn't get lost on the recording. I've been to the website. It's a good place. I mean, you get some information from me and certainly know how to get a hold of you. Very well.
Well, the website is in construction. I mean,
right.
We're doing this by myself, and I do have somebody that's helping me out, but it's not completely professional. However, I am going to work towards that one day, but I would like to learn the back end of it myself. So,
sure.
But you do have a little bit of information there that you can get out of it.
I think most people these days would go to Facebook to check a business, and there's obviously a review system there now, so that helps also. If you did a Google search for it, I'm sure you'd find your Facebook page would be my guess.
Right.
Now, this is the first time we've done one of these podcasts, and I just thought of some interesting idea that we're just going to try off the bat here. We've asked you a lot of questions, and and you are the spotlight, so that's a good idea. But because we do come from the same networking group, and we do know a little bit about each other, do you have any questions for Jason or I that may be able to answer some of the things we do for you? Just quickly, just one or two, maybe.
Well, I would say taxes. Looking at you, Ryan, taxes. You put out these things every single day when it comes to Facebook memes. I want you to tell people why the memes and not taxes. Why do you do stuff like that?
Well, one of the things that first of all, no one likes paying taxes. I've never heard of anyone that likes to pay them. If you have the money, you still don't want to give it to the government. On the other hand, it's also not something most people really think. Some people do look forward to tax season because they get a pretty good refund back, and they use that. But we want people to know more about who we are. Tax Break. It's a new company, and the reason why I came up with the taxes are hard, puns are fun, if that's what you're talking about, that we send out on Facebook every morning, was just to find a way to put our name in everybody's head and for them to see it on a regular basis. In advertising, they call that frequency, but without really trying to sell them on anything, because in August, most people aren't quite yet thinking about their tax preparation. So if someone sees the Tax Break name, and they enjoy some of the things that we say, and then they get their W-2s and their 1099s and all of their tax information in the mail in February and late part of January, maybe they'll think of us as opposed to some of the more larger national chains that they can come through. And we're going to see if it works, because this is the first year that we started business last December, and we only went through one tax season. So hopefully, I hope to have more clientele. We'd like to help people as much as we can, but that's the reason we do that, just to put our name out there in a fun way. I personally, and no one will believe me when I say this, I've kind of gotten the reputation of being the pun person, but I don't even like puns. My wife tells them to me, and they're just so ridiculous to me. But a lot of people do like them. It was something that was easy, something fun, something silly, something light, just to put our name into people's heads. So then maybe they'll consider us when the time comes.
So I know you don't like puns. You just said that. You do not like puns.
Yeah.
I don't like Sonic commercials, but actually one of my favorite commercials is a Sonic commercial. So I know out of all those puns, even though you hate them, you have to have a favorite pun. What is your favorite pun?
It's funny. There was one, and if I can remember exactly how it was said, and it talked about Gandhi. I don't know if either of you have seen this one. Taylor, you might have, because you've been a Facebook friend of mine for a while. Basically, it talked about how Gandhi had he didn't eat much, and obviously everyone knows that. And obviously not eating and drinking can cause dehydration, which can lead to bad breath. And then he was a mystic and all these other things, and then he had problems with his feet, and this was actually our most popular one too. It got the most likes and the most views, and it was Gandhi was a how did they say it? Hold on, maybe ask Jason something while I look this up and make sure I get it.
Is
exactly.
It a super calloused?
Yes. Super calloused, fragile mystic, hexed with halitosis, and it was funny. Today's was pretty funny to me too, and it was. Would you like some ice cream or something like that? And it was Bert and Ernie, and he was like, "Sure, Bert." And I thought that was kind of funny too. That was a good one.
I like your little accent that you put in there. Sure, Bert.
Well, and it's great branding, because when I think of taxes, you think of like IRS, big scary IRS bureaucracy, or the few times I've done taxes with like an H&R Blocks type entity, it's just you feel like cattle. You're just in and out, and there's no personal touch or anything. And the branding that you're doing on Facebook, it's on people's Facebook page, which is in their home, in their bedroom, living room, wherever they're looking at it, not just some commercial where they're going to see several of those commercials come tax time. But also it kind of sets you apart. I think it shows that you're a little younger, you have a sense of humor, you're not probably part of this bureaucracy, and I really enjoy the puns. I don't necessarily go seeking them out, but they pop up at the top of my news feed, and I usually laugh out loud when I see them. So I think that's great branding, and that's good work.
One of the I appreciate that, guys. And as I said, not being a fan of puns, but those have come over very well. Rocky, one of our other partners here, hates them and has threatened on multiple occasions to stop liking Tax Break because he hates the puns every morning, which has not dissuaded me from putting them on there. It actually makes me laugh that he hates them that much.
There you go. Challenge accepted.
Yeah. One thing that we hope for at Tax Break, if you guys have walked into our office, Taylor's been here a couple times. Today's your first time, Jason. We put out a living room out in front rather than it being a cold tax office. We want people to feel at home. We thought about putting a fireplace up there, but if you've ever been in here, it gets really warm anyway with that, with the glass right there. So we decided against that. But there's a TV and a couch, and not someplace you're going to hang out, but someplace that may seem a little warm and inviting. You have a lot of options when it comes to tax preparation, whether it be a national chain or a local CPA, something like that. If you haven't been satisfied, my thought is if you haven't been completely satisfied and happy with where you got, give us a shot. Because if you come in, and my wife, who is much prettier than I am, it would she does taxes for us, and we're going to have another assistant, I think, this year, and then me. It is a personal experience. Most people end up laughing even while they're getting their taxes done, and I expect that most of the people that came through last year will come back, and I hope to increase the business. And and go from there. But I'm really interested in helping people with that. But.
Well, I'm not just saying that because I'm sitting across from you, but, we did get our taxes done with y'all last year, and we were very impressed. I was very happy with the way everything turned out, so I give you a thumbs up on that one.
Well, that's why we're still friends, right? Because if I'd have done a bad job, we wouldn't be sitting here, right?
Oh, yeah, I would say we were. I'd just go somewhere else to get my taxes done.
Fair enough.
He's an honest man.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Well, Jason, you had somebody call you and ask about an interview about your quadcopters and stuff lately.
Oh, here we go.
I love that. I love the fact that you didn't use the buzzword that he was very clearly.
No,
on Facebook
I do not use that buzzword. He didn't correct me whenever my son said, "Hey, Dad, he has a little drone." So
I just have to grin and bear it.
Grin and bear it.
Yeah.
I would have done the same thing too, Jason, because I just didn't know.
No,
but
it's
I'm glad I
acceptable.
read that, so I will not say. I won't even say it now.
I don't think anybody would correct you unless they piloted one and then they understand that side of it. There's definitely a negative connotation. So I just the bad word in question here is the D word, and that is drone. In my opinion, a drone is something that the military uses to attach missiles to and use in combat. And as cool as it would be to fly one of those, I don't have that, nor have I ever tried.
Okay. Well, can you tell us about your quadcopters and the stuff that you actually use them for? Because I've seen photos that you've actually put on Facebook, and I mean, just looking at your news feed, you're a very artsy person to me. You have a high passion for arts, any type of arts. I mean, music, art, pictures, dance, everything like that. I really want to know more about the quadcopters and what actually pushes you towards the photography and the videos that you make on there. What do you actually use them for?
I'm relatively new to the hobby myself. The first time I ever really saw one is I was doing a music event at the Springfield Art Museum last fall, and I have a friend who is kind of a relatively new friend at the time. He came out, and I happened to be up on stage DJing, and all of a sudden it felt like somebody turned on a ceiling fan above me. And I looked up, and he had a quadcopter positioned right above me with a camera on it. And, of course, it's kind of awe-inspiring the first time you see one. It's a robot flying through the sky, and I'm thinking, wow, we live in the future. Look at that thing. And it wasn't even until, I think, the day later he sent me the video that he shot that day. And there's just something about putting a camera up in the sky and then looking down. It just changes your whole perspective on where you're at, what's around you. Just this whole other world comes to life. And so I was hooked immediately. I waited a few months and then just went out and bought a smaller one. I think I spent... It was close to like $200 on the first one I bought, and crashed it into the walls 100 times and broke the props and burned out motors and basically had to learn how to fly. And then a little bit later bought a bigger, nicer one and ended up with one that's the one that I fly now is called a Blade Chroma. It's basically like a DJI Phantom, but it's like Ford Chevy. It's the other one. But it's I mean, as far as my passion for it, about the first time that you put it in the air and capture a picture of a sunset, you can see it on the screen, and you kind of know what's going on, and I've flown enough now, I have an eye for it, but initially, I didn't even know what I was doing, and then you pull the SD card out later that night, throw it in your computer, and see what you captured, and I'm looking at these photos, and I'm thinking, wow, that's amazing, did I do that? And it's just kind of, I'm not necessarily a competitive person, but when I find something I'm passionate about, I am face first, nonstop, and I just got the bug, and that's where it's gone from there. I love taking pictures, love looking at sunsets. Every time I walk out, I look straight up and look at the cloud pattern and think, those would be fun clouds to take a picture of. I don't really know what I get out of it other than I feel like I'm capturing something that when I blink, it's gone. I'll never see that sunset again. So if I got a great picture of it, maybe someday when I'm older, I'll be flipping through just trying to remember things. And you get imprints with them, too. There are pictures I can look at, and I can just remember the story of that day. Oh, okay, I was in a bad mood, so I grabbed my quadcopter. I went to the park. Beautiful flying conditions. I was flying, and then this really nice old lady came up and was just blown away, by the technology. And that happens all the time. If you've got one of those things out with you and you're holding the controller, you're the star of the show no matter where you're at. So you'll meet people, and people come up and talk to you, and I kind of feel like there's two different sides of it, not to go too deep in this. There's two different sides. There's the people that like to fly fast, and then there's the people that like to fly high and take pictures. And I'm the picture side of it. The people that come up to you, they typically all they've seen about it is in the media. Of course, we've all heard horror stories about them crashing into buildings and, hurting people. And sadly, there's a lot of people that technology is easy to come by, and there's a lot of people that, are out there flying them that probably shouldn't be. So I feel like I've kind of become like this ambassador for the safe flying, and the reason I do it is to take pictures, not to, race really fast, and there's nothing wrong with that. Those little ones that go fast are so fun to watch, but I'd rather put a, 16 megapixel 1080p camera in the sky and take a 20-minute video of a sunset and then go home, throw it on YouTube and speed it up 16 times. You end up with like a 4-minute video or something, and it's a time lapse, and I'm stuck on it. I love it.
Now, that's not your day job, although
no, that'd be nice.
Yeah, no kidding. You work with Insurance Group of the Ozarks. As we said earlier, the operations manager. Maybe tell us about what you do there and really what the company itself does.
Sure. Well, the company's been around for, I think it was incorporated, I want to say in 2000. We've been in our current location for 10 years as of, I think, here in a few weeks is the anniversary of that. I work for an owner that's just passionate about helping people. I work with a team of people that are just passionate about helping people. I've worked in other insurance offices before in my past, and ironically, both my parents were insurance agents. So I've kind of always grown up around it in the business. Never, ever thought I'd ever grow up and work in an insurance agency just based on some of the experiences I saw as my parents are coming home and they're just stressed out and having to meet sales quotas. And it was just a lot different back then. We're not like that. We will help people. Our goal is to educate people. Insurance is rapidly changing as an industry as a whole. Of course, with the Affordable Care Act, not just Medicare, all the individual under 65 insurance changed and was re-regulated, and now there's all these laws and loopholes. And just speaking, before I actually started working with this agency, I didn't know what it meant when the Affordable Care Act was implemented and how that changed. And still here we are, I think 3 years later from it going live, and I get phone calls every day of people that have no idea that they're required by law to carry minimum levels of coverage like your car insurance is. So I feel like we get to educate people, we get to help people, and that's why I'm there. And what I do there is I'm just kind of I kind of do everything. I'm not a licensed producer. I don't sell the insurance myself. But just about everything else that goes down there, I probably have a little piece of my hand in it just as the days go through.
Yeah, there's been a lot of in the tax business. Last year was my first year doing tax preparation mainly, and that Obamacare, as people call it, the Affordable Care Act, is very very complicated and people. There's a lot of passions about it. A lot of people are very thankful that they have found a situation in which they can find affordable insurance.
Well, and that door swings both ways. I mean, I've seen people in our office pounding their fist on the table, screaming about how un-American it is. And then I have one of my very best friends is somebody that didn't have access to healthcare, affordable healthcare, prior to this law being implemented, and has some health concerns and is a single mother. And she's become a client of ours, and she will sit here with tears in her eyes and tell you that has absolutely changed her life for the better. So it's variant per situation. I've seen it really help people. I've seen it go sideways with mistakes before and hurt people, and I can't stress enough. That's why you need to go with an agent, not get on that website yourself and sign up yourself, because if anything goes wrong with an agent, you have an expert there as your advocate to help you get through whatever is happening.
And speaking from someone who I've recommended you guys actually recently, I've had a client come over that was a person that we knew from here that's gone over to you, but also I'm going to use your services myself too. I would say this though, as I said, passions run high on both sides. If you go to an insurance agent and talk to them about the Affordable Care Act, the agent does have compensation if they sell the insurance, but it doesn't cost you, the client, anything. So there is no negative at all to you for going to the insurance agency. And the only reason I brought up the compensation to the agent is because some people feel like, why would I go do something that I could do myself online? The agent is compensated, so they're very happy to help you. At least they are at the Insurance Group of the Ozarks. Some may not be, but I know they are. And it's not a waste of their time. It's not a waste of anything in that regard. It's something that they happily do because they are compensated for their time, but you don't have to be the one compensating them.
Oh, sure. And I mean, if you have something break on your car, any of us could get on YouTube and find the video of how to fix it, but I'm going to take my car to an expert and have them fix it for me. I mean, I could go off on that all day. Yeah. It's just there's definitely benefits to having somebody in your side, and that door's got to swing both ways here as far as what your business is. As far as having an expert prepare your taxes, there's probably a lot less of a chance of there being a hiccup along the way if I were to do it myself. And I can't give myself a back rub, so your profession, Taylor, is absolutely required. Boy, I know there's a lot of people that use those services that are happy with that.
Yeah, I wrote a blog recently about that, and I try, because everyone has their own political opinion about whether or not it's constitutional or not, whether or not it's a good thing or not, and it's a very complex situation. What I always recommend with the now we're getting into healthcare stuff, but what I really recommend with that kind of thing is just to make sure that you know what the laws are. It doesn't matter if you like the law or if you don't like the law. It is the law, and there are consequences for not abiding by it, and that happens unfortunately at my desk when people come in and their tax return that they were expecting, either they end up with a bill or they end up with a significantly smaller refund than they had previously anticipated, because every year, I think until 2021, correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, the punishment gets stiffer and stiffer until eventually it is essentially going to cost you the same amount of money to not have insurance as it will to have insurance, and you won't have insurance. So you're paying the money out anyway. You may as well get coverage.
Well, I'm no expert, but it's my understanding is it's capped right now, so it's not going to go up anymore next year. That doesn't mean it's not going to change again. It's gone up, I think, the last 2 years in a row. Just depending on the plan. And again, all this, if we're talking like a marketplace plan through healthcare.gov, it's based off your income in relation to what kind of tax credits or refunds you get back for that insurance. So it's all situational. The people that make, $300,000 a year, the government's probably not going to offer them any tax credits because they assume they can afford it. So their premium payments are going to be very high versus somebody that may be a minimum wage worker and, part-time or something. There's a bare minimum you have to meet in order to qualify for tax credits, but most people do.
Something that people don't realize, too, Missouri did not expand their Medicaid program, and therefore there is a loophole at certain income levels in Missouri to where you don't have to have insurance of any kind and you won't have to pay a penalty. But it is a very small window.
It's a small window, and there's a lot of people that they fall outside that window where they do not have a lot of annual income, and yet they are required by law to carry insurance. So that's kind of where the penalty comes into play, because a lot of people would get a refund back, I think, those lower income people, and it's, it would come out of that basically is how the IRS is getting that money back. So and the other thing is it's ever changing. Whatever it was this last year, it will not be the same next year.
Sure.
And actually moving forward into this next year, we're not exactly sure what it's going to be. 2 of the 4 major carriers have already pulled out of the Missouri market. So as of right now, we have 2 choices, whereas last year we had 4, and I'm not certain if one of those 2 that is still here is going to be here come open enrollment. So there very well might be one choice. I was actually reading the other day about a county in Arizona where all carriers have pulled out. So how does the federal government mandate that you have to have an insurance plan, punishable by a fine if you don't, if there's no insurance plans available in your area? So I imagine there'll be some lawsuits, and I guess the icing on the cake here is we have an election coming up in November, and it could all change with a swipe of a pen. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's why you need to go. That exactly is why you need to talk to a tax person, or you need to talk to an insurance person about what your liabilities are. And when it comes to open enrollment, make sure you're taken care of.
If y'all have any influence with the healthcare, I think y'all need to talk to people and make sure that all the insurance companies will cover massage therapy.
There's so many things it doesn't cover that it should, and that's right at the top of the list, in my opinion.
Well, I know I'm a massage therapist, but my opinion is, like you said, invest a little later. You don't have to pay a lot later. Invest now, don't pay a lot later. It's cheaper for an insurance company to cover a couple massages every 2 to 3 months than it is to cover a full-blown backache you to go get pills.
Just like oil changes in your car.
Exactly.
You're going to blow your engine if you don't do it. It's one of those same types of things. So, and that's, again, the changes that are going to happen over and over and over again. that we have to keep talking about, because the lawmakers, they don't take breaks. They don't be like, well, we've got enough laws, let's go home now. So at the end of the day, they're going to continue tweaking it and changing things. So make sure you talk to somebody. Whether I would suggest you go to the Insurance Group of the Ozarks and talk to Jason and the team over there. And that's where I'd send you. That's where I've sent people over the last couple of weeks, and we've sent some folks over there. But
and we appreciate the business, but more important than that, we appreciate the opportunity to help people that need help.
I think the last thing we need to talk about here, and I don't know, I'm having a lot of fun. I could probably do this all night, but at the end of the day, I think no one wants to listen to a 4-hour podcast of three guys in a room talking about insurance. But
well, I can have fun because I'm out of the house, but unfortunately, I would have to, reap what I sow, and when I get home, I don't think the wife would be too happy.
Yeah, my wife's called me already a couple of times, and she knows what I'm doing. She's not even upset. I wonder what she needs. But I do think we need to talk about, Jason brought it up earlier. We meet with 38 Special, which is a member of the MOB, which in MOB is MOB, Masterminds of Biz.
I'm glad you clarified that. When I'm so used to saying the mob, and people that don't know of that, they look at me, and I'm like, no, I'm not having a Tommy gun in my guitar case here.
And that's where we've met. That's where we work. If you're not a member of the MOB and you happen to be listening to this, we are more than happy to have you on and talk to you about that as well. This isn't specifically for the MOB, but that's just where we met and where we network. And we would love to, all three of us meet in the same group, would love to see you at our group. We meet at Patent Alley Pub in downtown Springfield on Wednesday mornings at 8:30. The bartender there, who graciously has opened up and has a breakfast menu that is just for us, would love to have more people there. So and also, by the way, Patent Alley Pub, just for a plug for them, great place. Whether you go there, they're open for lunch, and they're open for on the weekends and the evenings, have comedy shows and all kinds of live music. Great place to go. Definitely would recommend it for sure.
I was very surprised at how tasty the breakfast food is there. It shocked me. I was kind of expecting run of the mill. Okay, now they have to put a breakfast menu together. They're not really open at this hour usually, and I'll put that on stage with any other breakfast in town. It's delicious.
Microwave bacon. That's what I was assuming, and it is not. It is. No. It really is a good breakfast.
Absolutely.
No, I'd say about 2 weeks I've had bacon, steak tips, and eggs. Yeah. Straight protein.
And it's not expensive. That's the other thing. I thought with the quality that it was, I would expect it to have been more money. But you can get a pretty good breakfast there for, $7-8, and good stuff. Biscuits are delicious.
And the coffee doesn't even taste burnt. That's a plus.
Yeah, and she did say that she would make some mimosas for people, but being a part of the MOB, we're not supposed to drink there, so you got to do that about 10 o'clock. In fact, I would be happy to stay after the MOB meeting and maybe drink a couple mimosas with anyone who'd like to come visit us at any time. So I don't have as many, at least not during tax season. I probably wouldn't do that. But
that's probably a good idea. Yeah. Well, and I mean, as far as business networking groups goes, I mean, just to plug the MOB here a little bit, it's not what I kind of came to know is the typical business networking, where if I'm not in a collared shirt and a tie, I might be a little underdressed, or if I'm not standing on stage talking about a $200,000 sale, then I'm not up to everybody's level. The MOB ranges from everything from people that are like in the financial investment side of things all the way down to, in our chapter, we have somebody that's a professional cleaner for a living, and we're receptive to anybody. I mean, if you're there to promote your business, we're going to be there to promote your business too, and that's kind of what we do every Wednesday morning.
And in our group, several of the girls that are in there do things on the side that I find very interesting. Well, one in particular, and hopefully we'll have Shanae on here at one point, but she also, and we'll get her to talk about all the things she does. She's a, what's the word? She's a midwife.
Midwife. She talked about that this morning a little bit. Very
interesting stuff. And Chad and some of these other people, the stories that you find, and that's what I like about the MOB, rather than some of the other the real friendships you make. Taylor and his wife have been to my house. I hope to have Jason out and, get to know him a lot better. Chad, great. Alyssa and her husband are fantastic. Summer, I've been out with them too. And the friendships that we've made there, in our group in particular, we're all, there's a social activity there, and we're not all the same age. We're not all from the same background, and yet we've found common ground where we could relate to each other. I mean, a hick from Arkansas and Chad Page, I don't even know if you guys could even belong in the same room. Chad seems he's so fancy, he just looks like Edward Jones, man, and here comes Taylor with his shaggy beard.
Well, you got to look at it this way. His hand-me-downs from 10 years ago is something brand new for me. So.
Yeah. So as I said, Pat and Alley Pub in downtown Springfield at 8:30 on Wednesdays. We'd love to have you there. If you're at all interested in being the spotlight on the podcast, we'd love to have you here. It's a hobby of Jason's that I'd like to turn into at least a regular thing, if not weekly. But anybody who's interested in coming in and having a conversation. And Taylor, we certainly appreciate you being the first one down here. You've been very interesting to us, and so much so that if you wanted to come back a couple times and interject things with us and help us ask questions for some, and find out more about other people that are here. If you have recommendations, we'd love to have you come back and do that too.
I'd love to come back. It gets me out of the house. And,
Well, and anybody that's passionate about what they do, I mean, you're going to have no problem coming over and talking on a podcast and actually having it be something that's listenable and having it be enjoyable to listen to for the people that are listening. I think that's why Taylor was a great fit for our trial launch here, as far as we know that you're passionate about what you do. You are very, stringent on helping people and making sure. I mean, in the ideal world, you're going to work yourself out of your business because you've just healed everything, and people don't need to come back to you. So that's not. I don't know of a lot of businesses that would have that goal, but it's interesting to hear other people talk about it.
And you get to keep your clothes on, so that's.
And you get to keep your clothes on. I don't want to see anything. I mean, I'm begging you. I mean,
so that's almost as much for you as it is them, right?
To be honest with you, I did pick a profession to where people actually pay me to take their clothes off, but I mean, keep your clothes on. By all means, keep your clothes on.
That's good advice.
Yeah, that's just in general, as outside of like showers and things of that nature. I think that's good advice in general. Just keep your clothes on.
Absolutely,
keep your clothes on. Well, Jason, I think this is a wrap. I feel like this went pretty well for an initial podcast. Feedback, guys. Harsh criticism is fine. I guess I can't speak for Jason's feelings, but I have some pretty thick skin. So if you have some harsh criticism for us, let us know. Good criticism, bad criticism, anything, just any kind of feedback, let us know. And I've had a lot of fun doing it, and hopefully we get to do it again.
Actually, I wouldn't call that harsh criticism. Any criticism is constructive criticism.
I don't like the word criticism. I like the word feedback, and you would reference that earlier. It's feedback to me. Yeah.
I stand corrected.
Fair enough.
See, that was some good criticism, guys.
Hey,
feedback.
Go.
So there we go. Okay. All right. Well, Taylor, thanks for coming. Jason, thanks for having me on here and helping me do this. And, I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, it was enjoyable. And that was Taylor with Tailored Massages.
Ryan Welch with Tax Break.
And I'm Jason with Insurance Group of the Ozarks.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. 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 Everyone.